Look, you worked for it, you paid for it, and right now, quietly, they're taking it back. The whole thing. The house you spent 30 years paying down. The savings you set aside instead of spending. The coverage you were promised after a lifetime of paychecks. Everything you did the right way, the responsible way, the way they told you to, is worth less every single month. And it's not by accident. Here's what you were always told. Play by the rules. Pay your bills. Don't carry debt. Save a little less than you spend and have faith in compound interest to do the rest. Do that and everything will be okay. That is not what's happening. The people who wrote the rules aren't playing by them. And they're not coming to save the thing you built. They're quietly helping themselves to it. And look, if your gut's been telling you that you're working harder than ever and somehow still falling behind, your gut is right. Trust it. You're not bad with money. You're not imagining it. It's just not happening for the reason they'll give you on the news. Because this isn't one problem. It's 7 of them, 7 different things, all reaching into the same household at the same time, all pointing back to the same quiet machine in Washington. A machine built so that nothing ever gets fixed, as long as people like you keep paying the bill. And nobody's putting all 7 of these together as one story, so I will, because they're all connected. And before we're done, I'm going to show you the 3 moves you can make this week to protect what you have left. Let's start. We'll go through them one by one. Failure number 1. Medicare hospice fraud.
Claiming Armenian and Russian organized crime crews in the San Fernando Valley are ripping off federal health care programs, stealing $3.5 billion so far.
The head of CMS, that's Medicare, Dr. Oz himself, says fraud in LA County alone runs into the billions. And here's what that looks like on the ground. Hospice companies multiplied by 1,500% since 2010. One building, one single address, had 89 registered hospice providers operating inside of it. 0 patients. 89 companies billing Medicare for people they never treated. It's not a hospital. It's not a clinic. It's a mailbox with an invoice printer, and it bills your Medicare for all of it. Every year, Medicare's board puts out a report card on the fund's health. And here's the truth they're keeping to themselves. There is no trust, and there is no fund. They call it a trust fund, 2 lies for the price of 1. You can't trust the people running it, and the fund itself is an empty shoebox full of IOUs written in disappearing ink. Medicare Part A, that's the part that pays your hospital bills when you're over 65, the part you've been paying into your whole working life. That fund is projected to hit 0 by 2033. When it does, your hospital coverage gets cut 11 cents on every dollar, and it climbs from there. And here's the math they're holding close to the vest. For every 1 person collecting Medicare today, there are only about 3 workers paying into it. It used to be closer to 5, and that number is now headed toward 2.5 by the end of the decade. And it only goes one direction from there, down. The fund is getting looted from the outside by fraud and crushed from the inside because there aren't enough workers paying into it to cover everyone collecting. And nobody in Washington can touch it. They can't do anything about it, and you'll see why in a minute. Failure number 2, Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. And this one has stopped being a what if. Over the last few weeks, that choke point effectively shut, and the price of everything that rides on oil went with it. Gas blew past $4, about $1.50 higher than before this kicked off. Brent crude ran all the way up to $114 a barrel. Then, a few weeks back, it dropped almost 20%. Everybody betting that the war was about to wrap up. And then last week, those talks fell apart. Iran threatened to slam the strait shut all over again, and the slide stopped cold and started creeping back up. That's the whole point. Just as much as the closure of the strait is a threat, the volatility itself, even worse. One headline, it's $90. The next, it's $115. And analysts are openly warning that if that strait locks back up for real, we're talking $150, even $200 a barrel, with Goldman saying high prices could stick around through 2027. And before somebody says, who cares? America makes its own oil. It doesn't matter. Oil trades at a global price. A choke point on the other side of the planet still lands on your pump, your grocery bill, and your heating bill, no matter whose barrels we burn. Global price. That's the suite level euphemism for we wired the market so guys in London can gamble on your commute here to work. They privatize the profit and globalize the pain. Because oil isn't just your gas tank. It runs through everything. Fertilizer, food, shipping, utilities. If oil crosses that line, mortgage rates spike right alongside inflation. The homeowner who's already stuck can't afford to move, can't afford to stay. Squeezed from both ends at the same time. Your fixed expenses, those go up. Your portfolio goes down. Your home equity gets harder and harder to access. All three simultaneously, because of a narrow stretch of water most Americans couldn't point to on a map with a gun to their head. It has more control over your retirement right now than anything your financial advisor is going to tell you in your next quarterly meeting. Failure 3, dead voters. And this number keeps climbing. The DOJ's own civil rights chief, Harmeet Dillon, went on the record and said they've now confirmed over 350,000 dead people still sitting on the voter rolls. And that's before they've even gotten into half the states, because 29 of them are being sued to hand over their records. And if you're about to jump in the comments and scream, dead people didn't vote, that's not the claim here. These are dead names the law requires states to scrub, and they haven't. So it makes you wonder, why are 29 states hired lawyers, with your tax dollars, keeping the list to themselves? 29 states hired lawyers to fight a lawsuit asking them to follow a law they're already required to follow. That's not governance. That's a cover-up with a retainer agreement. That's not what innocent looks like. And look, you don't have to dig through some lawsuit to feel this. Watch what's happening right now. California held a primary, and a week later, nobody can tell you for certain who won the governor's race or the LA mayor's race. The count crawls for weeks. The numbers drift a little every single day. Hundreds of thousands of ballots still sitting in a processing center. Whether it's dead voters or the boring explanation that late mail ballots tend to lean one way, so the drift is expected, this is an easy one to let your imaginations run wild. But here's the thing. When it takes 3 weeks to count, and the result slides in one direction the whole time, and a federal prosecutor goes on TV to say there are investigations underway but won't say into what, you don't have to prove a single crime for the damage to be done. The faith is already gone. And a country where half the people don't trust the count has a problem no recount can fix. That's the real cost, not one stolen election. A permanent, low-grade distrust that never gets resolved because nobody in charge has any reason to make the system fast, clean, and obvious. And then there's the SAVE Act, a bill that would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It's an 80-20 issue. Polls put it actually around 84%. Both parties' voters want it. It passed the House, and then it hit the Senate, and just stopped. Still sitting there. And why? Because of something called a cloture vote. And that's next, by the way. And when you see how it works, you'll now understand why nothing in Washington ever gets fixed. So the law that would clean up voting integrity can't pass, and the procedure that kills it can't be reformed, because the people who benefit from this dirty play won't allow it. That's not dysfunction, that's architecture. And your household cost? You registered, you showed up, you did it right, and the people who didn't follow the rules are canceling you out, one dead name at a time. Failure 4. This is the biggie, the one that controls everything right now. Talking about the zombie filibuster. One senator, one phone call from a golf course for all we know. That's all it takes to kill a bill that 59 other senators already support. No debate, no speech, nobody even has to show up. They call it the cloture vote, a word that sounds like a medicinal cream you'd buy to soothe a rash, but is actually a legislative kill switch. It's the rule that says you need 60 senators just to start debating a bill. A filibuster by its most common name. Here's how it works. One guy calls in, says no, and boom, the bill dies. Nobody has to go on the record. Nobody even has to give a 12-hour speech while peeing into a bucket anymore. That's it. Meanwhile, your retirement just flatlined on the Senate floor. They've used this trick over 2,500 times, and more than half of those happened in just the last 12 years. It's not protecting debate anymore. It's accelerating paralysis, and they're letting it happen. This is why your prescription drug prices never actually go down, even when both sides promise they will. Most of the big fixes get stuck in that same black hole. Social Security running out of money, dead. Medicare funding, dead. Inflation relief, dead. Paralysis is the default now, not the exception. The mechanism designed to protect debate is now the kill switch that guarantees nothing gets fixed. That's why Medicare is headed to zero by 2033 and nobody's doing anything about it. That's why the SAVE Act is dead on arrival. That's why the dead voters stay on the rolls. That's why your senator can still trade stocks on information you'll never get to see. A ban both parties swear they want has been sitting in a drawer for years, passing a committee and then just waiting on a floor vote that never comes. That's why a $35 cap on insulin passed for the folks on Medicare, then got stuck for everyone else, 3 votes short of 60. And term limits, another thing 8 out of 10 Americans agree on, left and right. They won't even bring it to the floor. Of course they won't. You don't ask the people in the chairs to vote themselves out of the chairs. Failure 5, FBI surveillance. And this one isn't me guessing. It's straight out of a Government Accountability Office report from this past January, the GAO being Congress's own auditor. And the review that produced it was requested by both parties, Democrat Jamie Raskin and Republican Nancy Mace together. So nobody gets to wave this off as one side's talking point. Here's what they found. Between 2018 and 2024, the FBI opened around 1,200 of these things they call assessments on sensitive people. Journalists, religious leaders, academics, even members of Congress. And an assessment is FBI speak for, we're watching you. But we're not calling it an investigation. It sounds like something they do to a split-level ranch before they list it, not something they do to the Fourth Amendment. No factual predicate required. They can run physical surveillance on you without a court order. And you get no notice, no right to know, and no way to defend yourself. And look, maybe you're thinking, I'm not a journalist, I'm not a sensitive person, I never sat in Congress, so why should this keep me up at night? Well, here's why. It's not about who's on the list. It's about what the list proves. The people holding the most power are answering to the fewest rules, and nobody is stopping them. The privacy angle, that's real, but that's just the appetizer. Here's the part nobody connects. This is the main course. The dollar only works if people trust the system behind it, because it's not backed by gold anymore, it's backed by trust. And when the guys with the badges break the rules, the promises they back start to crack. And when that trust cracks, smart money doesn't sit in a savings account earning sub 4%. It moves to hard assets, to gold, to real estate, to collectibles, anything that holds its value without a politician's permission. That's not theory. That's what happened in every country where people stopped trusting the people in charge. When the institution with the badge can't be trusted, the currency it backs can't be either. And the institution doing the most damage to that currency is the one nobody on the news will name. The Federal Reserve has done more damage to your household than every recession, every crash, every market correction of the last 50 years combined. Because here's what they never taught you in school, and they're not teaching it today when it needs to be taught the most. Saving money is a losing strategy in a fiat system. Since 2020, the dollar's lost over 30% of its purchasing power. That's not a real estate pitch. It's a verifiable fact every non-compromised economist will confirm under oath. Which means the person who did the responsible thing, who saved, who played it safe, got punished the hardest. The result? Homes are unaffordable. Families falling further behind. A whole generation now looking at socialism as the answer. And honestly, I get it. Because nobody ever told them the source of the inequality is the institution printing the money, not the people who happen to have more of it. And here's where it gets tactically criminal. The Fed told every bank in America, rates are staying at zero, plan accordingly. So the banks did exactly that. Then, without warning, the fastest rate hikes in recorded history, in Silicon Valley Bank, Signature, First Republic Bank, they all blew up. Not by the market, by a central bank that changed the rules mid-mission. The government backstopped billions in deposits, and you paid for that. Because here's the truth nobody at that building on Constitution Avenue will say out loud. No single human being, no committee, no chairman, no PhD should ever have the power to set the price of money for 335 million people. We can't process that much complexity. We can't predict what those calls do to the future. But we keep handing them the keys anyway. And whether they mean to or not, the output's the same. Destruction. Because it's the same machine as everything else here. One senator can kill the fix with a single phone call. And the Fed can set the price of your money in a room you'll never see. Two different levers, same hand on both, and neither one answers to you. But the retired couple doesn't feel the filibuster. They don't feel the Fed either. They feel the pharmacy bill, the insurance notice, and the tax assessment. Think of it like a deadbolt with 7 tumblers. You can't pick one at a time. They all have to move together. They all have to line up. And every person in Washington has a reason to make sure at least one of those tumblers never moves. That's the deadbolt. And the trustees' report is the clock ticking in the background. We're not dead in the water, though. There are 3 moves that you can play, but there are 2 more failures in the system to address before. And this next one explains why you're hearing about all of this from a real estate guy on YouTube instead of from your evening news. Failure 6, the media blackout. The failure is that none of this made the major evening news as one connected story, not with the financial thread. I mean, you got weather, you got a celebrity feud, you got 3 anchors recycling the same arguments they've been having since 2016 that never manifest into anything meaningful, and 0 minutes on the fact that the fund covering your hospital bills runs dry in 2033. Priorities. Failure 7, the insurance squeeze. And this is the one that doesn't care which of the other 6 kept you up at night, because it hits your house directly every single month. I'm talking about your homeowners insurance. 7 out of 10 homeowners say their premium went up. 4 out of 10 say it went up a lot. That's a Pew survey from a few weeks ago, not a prediction, not a guess. Since 2021, the average premium is up 46%, 3 times faster than inflation. But here's the part that should make you sit up. In the riskiest states, the companies aren't just raising the price. No, they're walking away completely. State Farm, the biggest home insurer in California, stopped writing new policies back in 2023. Then, non-renewed tens of thousands of people who'd paid them faithfully for decades. Tens of thousands of people, paid every month, never missed, never filed a claim. And the company's answer? Thanks for the 40 years of premiums, now please leave. After the LA fires, they came back asking for more. In Florida, over $8,000 a year, almost 3 times the national average. And here's how it loops right back to that oil choke point. When lumber and labor to rebuild a house go up, and they have, the cost to insure that house climbs right behind it. Homeowners get stuck, can't afford to move, can't afford to stay. Insurance is now about 9% of the typical mortgage payment, highest share ever recorded, and it stopped being just a budget problem. In California, nearly 7% of home sales collapsed in escrow because the buyer couldn't get affordable insurance. If nobody can insure your house, nobody can get a mortgage on it. And if nobody can get a mortgage on it, nobody can buy it. Uninsurable quietly becomes unsellable. The thing you spent your whole life paying off turns into the thing you can't get out of. So you've got Medicare hospice fraud, Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, dead voters and overall distrust of the voting system, the zombie filibuster, FBI surveillance, the media blackout, and the 7th, your insurance. That's not 7 separate failures. That's one system protecting itself from reform, and it's bleeding you dry. So you can wait for someone to fix the system, or you build your own. Here's the 3-move play. Move number 1. Pull your Medicare summary notice this week. That's the form Medicare sends after every claim. Look for services you never received. If something looks wrong, call 1-800-MEDICARE and report it. And while you're at it, you might as well go to auditmycoverage.com and talk to Chapter. If you're one of the millions of people overpaying or undercovered, they'll show you exactly how to fix it. Then, pull your property tax assessment and compare it to actual closed sales in your neighborhood. Not Zillow estimates. That's a go-to, but it's not real. You want the real sales. And if your assessed value is inflated, you may have grounds to appeal. Every dollar you save on that bill stays in your war chest. And get some local guidance for your situation. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, I'm just a guy on YouTube who can read and has some common sense left. But this is the homework. Do it this week. Move number 2, use inflation to your advantage. The conventional advice was pay off all your debt and sit on cash. Here's what happened to people who have followed that advice. Their cash bought less every year, even though they thought they were being careful. They thought they were being safe, but that loss, it's accelerating. Here's what happened to people who borrowed at a fixed rate and bought income property. The asset appreciated, the rents went up, while the debt payment stayed fixed. And most people hear that advice and think it's real estate advice. They'd be wrong. It's inflation arbitrage advice. Real estate just happens to be the most favored vehicle in our economy for this move. Those people, they won 3 ways. The value went up, the rents went up, and the payments did not. All while the dollar lost ground, not to mention the tax advantages. I've been doing real estate for almost 20 years, and the single most consistent pattern I've seen, people who held fixed rate debt against real assets during inflationary periods came out ahead, consistently, across decades. Move number 3, get your equity off the public record. Right now, anyone with an internet connection can look up your name, find your property, and see exactly what it's worth. A properly structured trust takes your name off that record. It doesn't make you invisible, it just makes you a harder target to find. Think of it like taking your house key off the hook by the front door and putting it in your pocket. And right now, being a harder target is the smartest form of active defense available. So here's the choice. You can make these 3 moves this week and start building a wall around your household now, or you can wait and react after the window closes. One of those is active defense. The other is drift. And look, once you train your eye to watch this as an entire system instead of individual moving parts, you start seeing it everywhere. The Fed isn't the only place where the rules got written for somebody other than you. I mean, take Medicare. If you're 65 or you're staring it down, you probably figure Medicare is some friendly government safety net that's just gonna take care of you when the time comes. It's not. It's a part of the system, and a more confusing part of it. And those daytime TV ads telling you they'll help you pick a Medicare plan. Those people aren't your financial advisor. No, they're commissioned brokers. Some of them earn substantially more on one plan than another, which has a funny way of shaping the advice you get. Pick the wrong one, and you might not be able to switch back. That's why I pulled this video here for you to watch next. Same trick, eerily similar feel, with a lot more landmines. Most of them avoidable if you know they're there. So watch this one now. God loves you, and so do I. Take care.